I, the true heiress, have spent 18 years growing up in a temple, and at last, I've been welcomed back home by the parents of the wealthiest magnate. On my very first day upon entering, the false heiress spoke sweetly, saying, "My sister has just returned from the mountains. She may be unfamiliar with the customs, but I shall teach her well. Mom and Dad, brother, please do not be angry with my sister." Lin Wanwan gently interjected, her voice trembling as she blinked back tears, resembling a frightened little rabbit. Adorned in a pink princess gown worth 6 figures, she appeared ethereal, her snowy complexion evoking a sense of pity. In stark contrast, I stood clad in a faded robe, my feet encased in simple cloth shoes, clutching an old fabric bag containing a few changes of clothing. Together, we seemed less like sisters and more akin to a mistress and her servant. The impatience in my parents' and brother's gazes was unmistakable. My mother, Li Hui, frowned in displeasure, exclaiming, "Enough of this sisterly nonsense. You are our daughter." My brother, Su Yan, let out a derisive snort, his contemptuous glance sweeping over me as if I were something foul. My father, Su Zhonghua, the self-made tycoon who established a vast business empire, didn't he even spare me a glance? He turned to the butler and commanded, "Uncle Wang, escort her to the guest room. She is a nuisance here." In that moment, my inner voice reverberated through the opulent hall. My cheap father is destined for misfortune. Within 3 days, calamity shall befall him. My mother is entangled with ill-fated love. No wonder her menopause has struck early, making her temper so volatile. This counterfeit daughter is quite a heavyweight, her aura radiating with misfortune. Surely she shall soon find herself unexpectedly a mother? Alas, this family is a complete mess, with not one virtuous soul among them. The living room was engulfed in a suffocating silence. 3 pairs of eyes, along with the butler and servants, were fixated on me in horror, their expressions shifting from impatience to shock, then to sheer terror, culminating in disbelief. My father suddenly leaped from the sofa, pointing at me, his voice trembling. "What? What did you just say?" I blinked innocently, feigning ignorance. I didn't say anything. Indeed, I had not spoken a word. Yet my inner musings continued to flow. Why so agitated? Such anxiety will only hasten your impending misfortune. Let me see. You signed a contract just this afternoon, did you not? The company's name contains the character water. The project appears glamorous, but is actually a gaping pit. In less than 3 days, once the funding chain breaks, he shall be embroiled in a colossal fraud scheme, with accommodations in prison already arranged. My father's visage drained from an ashen gray to a ghastly white. He had indeed just signed with Bisui Group that afternoon, a pivotal project of the year. My mother, Li Hui, also turned pale, instinctively touching her cheek. What ill-fated love? What menopause? Her words faltered, seemingly embarrassed. My inner voice chimed in to elucidate. "Dear madam, have you not recently experienced shoulder and neck pain, prompting you to hire a male fitness coach by the surname Wang? He is not after your fees, but rather your person, nay, your wealth. He possesses numerous clandestine photographs of you, biding his time to present you with a surprise gift." Li Hui swayed slightly, nearly losing her balance. Only Lin Wanon managed to maintain her composure, tears streaming down her face as she grasped my mother's arm. "Mom, don't listen to her. She is merely jealous of me and spouting nonsense. She wishes to ruin our family. My fiancé, Aiken, loves me dearly. How could he betray me?" My inner voice casually dropped a bombshell. "Oh really? Your dear Aiken is presently selecting rings at the global romance jewelry store with a new flame. He has chosen a style you despise, a square-cut diamond. His proposal script is already prepared. You are the only light in my life." How terribly cliché. The entire family. At that moment, my father's assistant rushed in, panic etched across his face. "Chairman Su, it's dire. We just received news that Bisui Group's parent company has been seized overseas, all funds frozen. The 30 billion we just wired is likely." Before he could finish, the enormous LCD television in the center of the living room abruptly interrupted its financial news broadcast to air a social headline. "Breaking news, Mr. Guchen, a renowned young entrepreneur in the city, was recently spotted at the global romance jewelry store with a mysterious woman, displaying intimate behavior, suggesting impending nuptials." The camera zoomed in on Guchen, tenderly placing a large square diamond ring on a charming girl's finger. The image was crystal clear and irrefutable. Lin Wanwan's complexion drained of color in an instant. With a scream, she rolled her eyes and fainted, collapsing straight to the floor. The entire mansion descended into chaos. Chapter 2. The butler and servants frantically pressed on Lin Wanwan's pulse points. My father, Su Zhenghua, slumped into the sofa, his gaze vacant, muttering repeatedly, 30 billion is gone. My mother, Li Hui, clutched her phone, her fingers trembling as she scoured for something, her face oscillating between crimson and pallor. No one paid me any mind. I relished the tranquility, casually carrying my bag and surveying the absurdly grand house. Alas, the feng shui here is also quite poor. The main entrance directly faces the piercing hall. No wonder wealth eludes this household. They squander what they have. The living room is adorned with a painting of a tiger descending the mountain, facing inward. It brings harm, resulting in daily disputes and unrest. The largest bedroom on the second floor harbors the most ominous energy. Anyone residing within will surely fall gravely ill within 3 years. My inner voice resonated sharply in the silent living room. Just as Su Zhenghua regained his composure, he abruptly turned to me, his expression shifting from mere anger to a hint of fear. Who are you? I maintain my innocent facade. My name is Su Wei. I am your daughter. Indeed, I am Su Wei, the embodiment of the future. My master once said, my future holds infinite possibilities. Shut your mouth. Su Zhenghua bellowed, though his voice lacked conviction. This cheap father of mine isn't entirely dim. He recognizes fear. Alas, it is too late for such realizations. That 30 billion was merely an appetizer. The real calamity lies ahead. In his early years, he sought fortune by venerating a malevolent deity, making a pact. Now that his wishes are fulfilled, the price must be paid. Su Zhenghua trembled as if struck by lightning, his pupils dilating in shock. This was the deepest secret he had buried, one even my mother was unaware of. How could I possibly know? At that moment, Lin Wanwan stirred back to consciousness. Immediately wailing, my Aiken no longer loves me, woe is me. It's all your fault. You cursed me. She struggled to rise from the sofa, attempting to lunge at me. My brother, Su Yan, who had been observing coldly, finally intervened. He stepped in front of Lin Wanwan, shielding her behind him. His gaze toward me was as icy as a blade. Enough. Regardless of how you acquired this knowledge, you are to leave this house immediately. You are unwelcome here. I raised an eyebrow regarding this so-called brother. Oh, how noble of you to play the hero. But alas, you are not in a position to save yourself. Dear brother, have you not felt a chill creeping along your back, a stiffness in your neck, as if someone were weighing upon you? Do you often awaken from nightmares, dreaming of a woman in a red dress pursuing you, eager to marry you? Su Yan's countenance shifted dramatically. He instinctively touched the back of his neck, a flicker of panic flashing in his eyes. These symptoms had plagued him for nearly a month. He had merely attributed them to stress from work and inadequate rest. How do you know? I not only know, but I also understand the reason. You went on a business trip to Southeast Asia last month. Didn't you pick something up from the roadside? A quaint little wooden plaque. It looks quite unique. Su Yan's Adam's apple bobbed, but he remained silent. Yet, his astonished expression spoke volumes. That is not merely a souvenir. It is known as a Yuan plaque, a ghostly token. It is crafted from the ashes of a woman who met an untimely death, encapsulating her lingering resentment. By bringing it back, you have inadvertently forged a spectral bond with her. In your dreams, she pursues you, yearning to take you down with her, to become a pair of ghostly spouses. In 7 days, it will be her day of remembrance, which also marks your potential demise. At that time, she will come to claim you. My inner voice reverberated like a harbinger from the depths of hell, each word striking Su Yan's heart. His body swayed, and even Lin Wanwan, who was shielded behind him, sensed his tremor. Brother, don't listen to her nonsense. She's just trying to scare us. Lin Wanwan still feigned bravado. Yet, her voice was tinged with a quaver of fear. Crack. A sharp sound echoed as a glass was forcefully smashed to the ground, shattering into countless shards. It was Su Yan, who had inadvertently broken the water glass on the table, water splattering everywhere, dampening the cuffs of his trousers. Yet, he was oblivious. He fixed his gaze upon me, cold sweat beading on his forehead, his lips trembling. Help. He seemed to want to utter something. But at that moment, my father, Su Zhenghua, suddenly sprang up from the sofa as if possessed. His eyes were bloodshot, his face contorted in rage as he pointed at me, unleashing a thunderous roar. You vile witch. Spouting nonsense and sowing discord. Someone. Throw her out. Immediately. Right now. Chapter 3. Several bodyguards rushed in at the sound, their faces fierce, evidently having received a dire command. My mother, Li Hui, let out a scream, instinctively attempting to intervene, but my father shoved her aside. No one is to stop me. This calamity must be expelled today. Su Zhenghua had lost his sanity. I had unearthed one secret after another, transforming his pride and wealth, family, and status into a mere joke. His dignity and authority faced unprecedented challenges. All he desired now was for me to vanish. Su Yan regained his composure, his gaze on me laden with complexity, fear, doubt, but predominantly a sense of offended anger. He did not hinder the bodyguards. Lin Wanwan, reveling in the chaos, wore a triumphant smirk. Throw her far away. I never want to see her again. I stood rooted in place, making no move. I simply observed them, witnessing how my own blood relatives treated me as though I were an enemy. How pitiful. Facing death, yet still embroiled in internal strife. Do they believe that by expelling me, everything will revert to normal? Naive. My heart's voice echoed coldly, as if proclaiming a fact detached from my existence. The bodyguards advanced towards me, hands outstretched to seize me. I shot them a chilling glance. Do not touch me. My voice, though soft, carried an undeniable authority. The burly bodyguards were genuinely deterred, their movements frozen midair. My dear father truly seeks his own demise. The dark energy in his fate is thickening, almost palpable. Originally, it was merely a matter of losing wealth to avert disaster. Now he seeks his own end, and I cannot be blamed. If he dares to lay a finger on me today, within 3 hours, calamity will befall him. When that time comes, even the mightiest deities cannot save him. Su Zhenghua's rage intensified upon hearing my inner thoughts. You dare to curse me? He trembled with fury, maneuvering around the bodyguards, striding towards me. Today, I shall strike down this unfilial daughter. He raised his hand, summoning all his strength to deliver a fierce slap to my face. The wind howled ominously. Everyone held their breath. Li Hui shut her eyes in fear. Su Yan furrowed his brows. Lin Wanwan's eyes sparkled with malicious delight. I did not flinch. I did not even blink. I stood there, meeting his veined hand with a serene gaze, devoid of fear or anger, only an eerie tranquility. As if he were striking not a person, but a lifeless puppet. Go ahead. With this blow, our meager blood ties will be irreparably severed. The darkness upon his brow will instantly transform into death's chill, entwining him entirely. The calamity shall strike tonight, no deity shall intervene. On the path to the underworld. Travel well, I shall not see you off. My heart's voice rang coldly, devoid of any emotion. It was akin to the decree of the King of Hell. Su Zhenghua's hand halted just a centimeter from my cheek, trembling violently in midair as if gripped by an invisible force. Sweat rolled down his forehead, dripping onto the back of his hand. The living room fell into a silence so profound that one could hear the heartbeat of every individual present. Shock, fear, incredulity. All eyes were fixated on me, as if gazing upon a demon risen from the depths of hell. Death's chill? Su Zhenghua's lips quivered, forcing out those 2 words through gritted teeth. His rational mind dismissed it as absurdity. Yet, the fear lurking deep within him burgeoned like a vine, constricting his heart. He dared not gamble. He was truly afraid. Slowly, inch by inch, he lowered the hand that hung in the air. The atmosphere in the entire living room became stifling. Amidst this silence, I, for the first time, took the initiative to speak clearly. My voice, though soft, sliced through the stagnant air like a sharp ice blade, shattering their final facade. Chapter 4. Do you think I returned to snatch away everything from Lin Wanwan? My tone was calm, imbued with a chilling clarity reminiscent of mountain spring water. To compete for your affection? To plead for your pity and compensation? I surveyed their pale, terrified faces, then suddenly let out a light chuckle. The sound was soft yet felt like a feather, brushing against the taut nerves of each person present. I did not return to the Su family to rekindle familial ties. I paused, enunciating every word with clarity. I have come to collect a debt. Collect a debt? Those 2 words detonated like thunder, reverberating in the ears of everyone present. Su Zhenghua, Li Hui, Su Yan, and even Lin Wanwan, who had just risen from the ground, were all rendered speechless. The terror on their faces was swiftly replaced by immense confusion and absurdity. What business could a wild girl just returned from the mountains have in demanding a debt from them? Before they could utter a word of inquiry, I continued my narration. 18 years ago, on the day of my birth, a malevolent sorcery was employed to swap my fate with Lin Wanwan's. My gaze settled upon Lin Wanwan's pallid visage. Sue's true heiress, was destined to be a paragon of fortune, graced by the stars, living a life of ease and opulence. Yet, my destiny was forcibly usurped, leaving me abandoned in a temple, serving as a mere vessel to shield her from calamity, enduring 18 years of solitude and tribulation. Gradually, my eyes shifted towards Lin Wanwan. And I gestured towards her, a wretched soul who should have perished before her first birthday, has greedily claimed everything that rightfully belonged to me. She has stolen my parents, my family, my wealth, and my well-being. The silence in the room was palpable, as if a pin drop could be heard. Everyone was rendered speechless by my astonishing revelation. A fate swap? Was this a plot from a fantastical novel? Lin Wanwan was the first to regain her composure, shrieking in hysteria. "You're insane. You're a lunatic. Utter nonsense. Dad. Mom. Look at her. She has lost her mind. She's gone mad over money." However, this time, no one echoed her sentiments. Su Xingguo stared at me with a look of profound shock, as if a tempest were brewing within him. Li Hui covered her mouth, her body swaying, tears cascading silently down her cheeks. Su Yan furrowed his brows tightly, glancing between me and Lin Wanwan as if attempting to discern the truth from our expressions. I paid no heed to Lin Wanwan's outburst, my gaze coldly sweeping over my so-called relatives. "Do you believe yourselves to be innocent? One who stops at nothing for wealth, one lost in the allure of riches, neglecting familial bonds, and one who is cold, selfish, and devoid of compassion. You are the accomplices in this heinous transaction." Now, with the 18-year term complete, the sorcery has rebounded and retribution is at hand. My voice was measured yet imbued with a judgmental force. My father's impending calamity, my mother's ill-fated romances, my brother's tormented spirit, and her, I cast a glance at Lin Wanwan. Being jilted is merely the beginning. The stolen fortune is swiftly dissipating. Her days of fortune are numbered. And I have returned. I allowed a slight smirk to grace my lips, revealing a frigid smile. To witness firsthand how each of you descends into ruin. To watch you all pay for the deeds of 18 years ago. With that, I turned my back on them, grasped my tattered cloth bag, and walked resolutely towards the door. My silhouette was unyielding, devoid of any lingering attachment. "Wait," Su Xingguo's voice rasped, tinged with an unrecognized tremor and plea. I halted but did not turn back. "Do not beg me." My voice resonated through the vast, silent room, reaching each of their ears with clarity. "Beseeching me is futile. From this day forth, my voice will no longer reach you. For the words I wish to convey, I have already spoken. What remains for you now is not to plead with me, but to await your fate." With that, I pushed open the heavy door and strode out without a backward glance. Outside, the glaring sunlight awaited me. Inside, there was an oppressive silence and boundless dread. I was no longer the pitiful girl who relied on whispers to warn them from the temple. I was Sue, here to collect debts. Sue. Chapter 5. I did not venture far. I took residence in a 5-star hotel just outside the Su family villa. I used Su Yan's card. As I exited, I had casually extracted his wallet from the suit jacket he had carelessly dropped. Considerate interest for his summoning of spirits. I leisurely indulged in a hot bath, donned the hotel-provided robe, and ordered the most extravagant dinner available. For 18 years, my diet in the temple had primarily consisted of vegetables and tofu. My master used to say that the mundane pleasures of the world below the mountain are the most enchanting yet the most harmful. Now that I had descended from the mountain, I intended to savor these earthly delights fully. I felt no anxiety regarding the Su family seeking me out. Fear is the most effective bait. I had buried that bait deeply within the hearts of each of them. They would come. Lin Wanwan's wailing, Gu Chen's betrayal. These were mere trifles. What truly unsettled them was the retribution I had foretold. It was Su Xingguo's impending calamity and the female ghost in red that haunted Su Yan. It was the prophecy of this family spiraling towards ruin. I savored my steak leisurely, glancing at the cheap digital watch on my wrist. 7:30 in the evening. There remained an hour and a half until my father's disaster countdown commenced. I had set the time for 9 o'clock tonight. The location was within his black Rolls-Royce, license plate ending in 888. He had a crucial dinner engagement this evening with an overseas consortium, which would determine the Su Corporation's trajectory for the next decade. He had to attend. Would he take that car? I suspected he would hesitate. A person's pride and stubbornness can crumble in the face of death's terror. Yet, he would not fully trust me. Therefore, he might opt for a compromise, perhaps choosing another vehicle. That would suffice. What I desired was not his demise, but for him to comprehend that I could orchestrate his death. I could dictate his fate. This was far more intriguing than simply killing him. Ding dong, the doorbell chimed. I wiped my mouth but remained unmoving. The visitor outside displayed remarkable patience, refraining from pressing the bell again. After about a minute, my phone buzzed. It was an unfamiliar number. I swiped to answer, remaining silent. On the other end, I heard a series of strained, heavy breaths. Then, a man's voice emerged, hoarse, dry, and tinged with barely perceptible tremors. "Where are you?" It was my father, Sujingwa. I chuckled softly, providing him with the hotel name and room number. Before hanging up, I heard him shout at someone on the other end, "Prepare the car. Cancel the dinner. Head to Junwei Hotel." You see, he still feared death. All talk of 10 years of development paled in comparison to the value of his life. I ended the call and approached the massive floor-to-ceiling window. From here, I could overlook the city's nightscape. Thousands of lights twinkled like stars. I spotted a black Mercedes racing out from the Su family's villa, hurtling towards the hotel. Simultaneously, my phone vibrated again. It was a news alert. At precisely 9 o'clock tonight, a temporary demolition operation will take place on the city's elevated ring road, with traffic control in effect on certain segments. Motorists are advised to take alternate routes. I silenced my phone, lifted the glass of red wine from the table, and gently swirled it. The wine was a deep crimson, reminiscent of blood. I gazed out at the night view and softly uttered, "The show is about to begin." At the very moment my words fell silent, a tremendous explosion erupted from the distant overpass, illuminating the night sky with a blinding fireball. The thunderous roar that followed reverberated through the hotel, causing the very glass to tremble. A sleek black Mercedes, hurtling towards the hotel, screeched to a halt mere feet from its entrance, narrowly avoiding catastrophe. The doors swung open, and Sujingwa tumbled from the vehicle, his gaze fixated on the inferno and thick smoke rising in the distance. His legs buckled, and he collapsed onto the ground. Little did he realize that just at the intersection he had passed, an out-of-control dump truck had collided violently with a black Rolls-Royce, which had been idling at a red light. The license plate bore an unmistakable mark, A88888, the very car my father cherished above all. Chapter 6. The Rolls-Royce lay crumpled, resembling a crushed soda can, as the enormous wheels of the dump truck rolled over the driver's seat, leaving a scene too gruesome to behold. Had Sujingwa not decided to divert his path to find me, it would have been him reduced to mere pulp at this moment. Downstairs at the hotel, Sujingwa lay prostrate, his face ashen, trembling uncontrollably like a leaf in a tempest. He stared vacantly at the blaze on the overpass, then glanced back at the horrific crash scene, his mind a complete void. He had escaped the explosion, but had come perilously close to being struck by a vehicle. The thought of it sent chills down his spine, if not for my call, if not for his sudden decision to come to the hotel. The consequences were too dreadful to contemplate. A profound terror of having narrowly escaped death, intertwined with an unfathomable dread of my enigmatic methods, engulfed him completely. He finally comprehended that my reference to bloodshed was not a mere curse, but a precise prophecy, a prophecy that had manifested with alarming accuracy. Soon, the Su family's convoy arrived. Li Hui and Su Yan rushed from the car, their faces pale with fear upon seeing Sujingwa sprawled on the ground. "Husband, what has happened to you?" "Dad." As they pieced together the harrowing events from Sujingwa's trembling account, their expressions turned ghostly white. In unison, they lifted their gazes towards the floor of the hotel where I resided, their eyes filled with the reverence one might afford a deity wielding life and death. I drew the curtains, turning my back on the unfolding drama below, fully aware that the time had come. Indeed, within 10 minutes, a gentle yet tentative knock resonated at my door. I opened it to find the Su family standing there. Sujingwa, supported by another, still struggled to maintain his balance, appearing as though he had aged 20 years in a matter of moments. Li Hui's eyes were red and swollen. She gazed at me, her lips quivering, unable to utter a single word. Su Yan's expression was a complex tapestry of fear, inquiry, and an unacknowledged plea. "Come in," I gestured, allowing them entry. They stepped into the room and observed the remnants of my lavish dinner, their expressions subtly shifting. None dared to take a seat, standing awkwardly in the center of the room as if awaiting judgment. Suyen, the first to break the silence, inhaled deeply, as if steeling himself for a monumental revelation. "Is the woman from my dreams and that wooden talisman truly real?" I cast a sidelong glance at him, remaining silent as I approached. He instinctively recoiled a step, his body taut with apprehension. Ignoring his unease, I reached into the pocket of his expensive tailored suit. He stiffened, paralyzed by fear. I withdrew an object and laid it in the palm of my hand, a palm-sized talisman, dark in hue, engraved with a blurred profile of a woman, emanating an indescribable malevolence. It was the very artifact he had brought back from Southeast Asia. "This is cursed wood, soaked in corpse oil, sealed with the ashes and hair of the wronged dead," I declared, tossing the talisman onto the table with a dull thud. "This object is steeped in negative energy. Carrying it close to you essentially nourishes the vengeful spirit within. She has already latched onto you, siphoning your vitality, and snaring you in a web of nightmares and misfortune. In 6 days, as your life force wanes, she will break free from the talisman and drag you to the underworld to become her ghostly bridegroom." My words pierced Su Yan's heart like an icy dagger. He gazed at the ominous talisman on the table, the last vestige of color draining from his face. He recalled the myriad of strange occurrences over the past month, the weeping woman heard in the dead of night, the fleeting red shadow in the mirror, and his steadily deteriorating health. He had dismissed them as mere figments of his fraying psyche, but now it was all too clear, everything was real. With a resounding thud, Su Yan, the once arrogant and aloof heir of the Su family, crumpled to his knees before me. "Save me!" His voice trembled, imbued with an unprecedented sense of fear and despair. "Please, I beg you. I do not wish to die." Su Jinghua and Li Hui were left utterly speechless, having never witnessed their son in such a state of disarray. I regarded the kneeling Su Yan with an impassive expression. "I can save you," I stated coolly. In an instant, his eyes sparkled with the hope of salvation. However, I continued, shifting the tone of my words, "My assistance comes at a price." "What? How much do you want? 1 million? 10 million? Just name your sum, and I shall provide it." Su Yan exclaimed, desperation etched across his face. I shook my head, a cold smile gracing my lips. "I do not desire money. I want 10% of the Su Corporation shares, as the first debt you owe me." At my proclamation, silence enveloped the room. Su Jinghua and Li Hui gasped in shock. 10% of the shares. That represented an asset worth billions. With a single demand, I sought to extract nearly 1/10 of the Su family's fortune. "You're extorting us," Li Hui cried out in disbelief. "Absolutely not," Su Jinghua vehemently opposed. "The shares are the foundation of the company. They must not be touched." At that moment, a sharp voice pierced through from the doorway. "Dad, Mom, you cannot give her anything." It was Lin Wanwan. Unbeknownst to them, she had followed, now leaning against the doorframe, her expression filled with venomous resentment as she glared at me. "She is a fraud. She seeks to strip our family bare. If you trust her, we will be utterly ruined." Chapter 7. Lin Wanwan's arrival was like pouring cold water into a boiling pot, instantly igniting chaos. Su Jinghua and Li Hui, already torn with doubt, were further swayed by her words, their eyes now filled with suspicion and wariness towards me. Indeed, to demand billions in shares was no act of salvation, it was an audacious act of robbery. Su Yan, still kneeling, was momentarily taken aback, his gaze shifting from me to the ground, his plea for help now tinged with uncertainty and conflict. Sensing her advantage, Lin Wanwan limped into the room, tears streaming down her face. "Dad, Mom, brother, wake up. She is merely a wild girl from the mountains. What does she know of metaphysics or the arcane arts? This must surely be a trap of her own devising. The accident was a mere coincidence, and my brother's illness is nothing but her fabrication. She aims to swindle us out of our money." Her words were undeniably inciting. After all, coincidence and deception are far more palatable than supernatural phenomena. Su Zhenggua's gaze sharpened, and he straightened his posture, regaining a semblance of the commanding presence befitting a business magnate. "What evidence do you possess to substantiate that my son's condition is genuine?" I smiled, finding it profoundly ironic to witness the countenance of this family. Just moments ago, they were quaking in fear, and now they had reverted to skepticism and doubt. Indeed, it seems that a leopard cannot change its spots. I refrained from replying to Su Jinghua and instead shifted my gaze to Su Yan, who knelt before me. You have 5 days, I stated calmly. On the first day, you will begin to see hallucinations. Even in daylight, you will perceive the woman in the red dress. On the second day, you will start coughing up blood. By the third day, corpse-like spots will appear upon your skin. On the fourth day, you will become delirious, suffering from incontinence. And on the fifth day, precisely at midnight, she will come to claim you. With each word, Su Yan's complexion grew increasingly pallid. My specificity rendered him incapable of dismissing my words as mere coincidence or hallucination. Stop, please, he cried, clutching his head in despair. I pressed on. The means to save you are remarkably simple. I gestured toward the talisman on the table. Burn it, and with my unique talisman, I shall exorcise the evil and cleanse your body. You shall recover within 7 days. But why should I rescue you without compensation? My gaze traversed between Su Jinghua and Li Hui. Is it because you gave me life? Or because you raised me? For 18 years. Have you ever inquired about my well-being? Now that your son is on the brink of death, you suddenly remember my existence? There exists no such thing as a free lunch. My words struck them like a series of resounding slaps, igniting a stinging pain upon their faces. Li Hui's tears streamed down as she buried her face in her hands and wept. Su Jinggua's countenance darkened, his lips pressed tightly together, rendered speechless. Indeed. What right did they have? They possessed nothing of their biological daughter beyond mere blood ties, having bestowed the fruits of their 18 years of nurturing upon another. Wholly unrelated individual. I demand 10% of the shares in exchange for your son's life, I proclaimed, locking eyes with Su Jinghua as I issued my ultimatum. Will you proceed with this transaction or decline? You have 1 minute to contemplate. After that, even if you were to offer me the entirety of the Su Corporation, I shall not extend my hand again. Time ticked away, each second resonating like a heavy hammer upon the hearts of the Su family. Lin Wanwan continued to wail nearby. Dad, you cannot give in. Yet Su Yan suddenly lifted his head, his eyes ablaze with desperation, and shouted at Su Jinghua, Dad, I don't want to die. I truly do not wish to die. It was a clash between shares worth hundreds of millions and the life of his own son. Su Jinggua's expression revealed his internal struggle. 10, 9, 8 I began my countdown. 3, 2 I will do it. In the final second, Su Jinghua nearly bellowed those 2 words. He seemed utterly drained of all strength, collapsing wearily against the sofa. If you can save my son, I will comply. I smiled with satisfaction. Excellent, the first debt was secured. I approached Su Yan, looking down upon him. Remember, it is your father who has purchased your life with 10% of the shares. From this moment forth, your life belongs to me. With that, I grasped the talisman from the table and retrieved a piece of yellow talisman paper and a box of matches from my old cloth bag. In their presence, I struck a match and ignited the talisman paper. Then I cast the burning talisman paper upon the malevolent wooden plaque. A bizarre scene unfolded. Although the plaque was crafted from solid wood, it ignited instantly in a ghostly green flame as if doused in oil. Within the flames, a woman clad in red seemed to writhe in agony, her screams piercing the air. An atrocious stench of charred flesh permeated the entire room. Su Yan, being the closest, felt a frigid chill being siphoned from his body. The oppressive weight that had been pressing upon his neck and back, akin to bearing the burden of another, vanished in an instant. He felt utterly liberated. All is well, I clapped my hands as though I had merely accomplished a trivial task. The rest is merely a matter of recuperation. Su Yan, in disbelief, touched his neck and moved his shoulders. The unprecedented sense of lightness filled him with exuberance. I'm cured. I truly am healed. He exuberantly rose from the ground, gazing at me with eyes devoid of skepticism, now filled solely with awe and gratitude. Su Jinghua and Li Hui bore witness to this unfathomable spectacle, and the last vestige of their doubt evaporated. Their gazes toward me underwent a profound transformation. At that moment, my attention fell upon Lin Wanwan, who appeared ashen and trembling in fear from the eerie green flames and the harrowing cries. I offered her a slight smile. Do not worry, you shall be next. Chapter 8 My words sent a shiver through Lin Wanwan. She reacted as if a cat's tail had been stepped on, exclaiming, "What do you intend to do?" I disregarded her, turning instead to my mother, Li Hui. "Mother," I called, and she visibly stiffened. "Have you recently acquired a fine jade bracelet for the sake of beauty?" Li Hui instinctively glanced at her wrist. Indeed, she wore a bracelet of vivid green jade. Its quality apparent and undoubtedly valuable. "It was a gift from a friend. Is there a problem?" she inquired anxiously. "There is a significant issue." I stepped closer, pointing at the jade bracelet. "This is no ordinary jade. It is blood jade exhumed from a grave. A burial item, steeped in the miasma of corpses. It is profoundly sinister. Wearing it will not only attract ill-fated romance, but also jeopardize your health, making you restless, causing hormonal imbalances, and hastening your aging process. The phenomenon of premature menopause is its handiwork." Li Hui's face drained of color. She recalled that the bracelet had been gifted by the wife of a business rival, who had praised her fortune in acquiring such a treasure. It turned out to be a trap laid for her. In panic, she attempted to remove the bracelet, but it seemed to have fused her wrist, resisting all efforts to dislodge it. "Do not waste your strength," I said, picking up a hefty ashtray from the table. "Such a malevolent object is easy to put on, but removing it requires but one method." With that, amid Li Hui's terrified screams, I raised the ashtray and brought it crashing down upon the jade bracelet. "No!" Crack! The sound rang out sharply. The jade bracelet shattered, splintering into several pieces. Strangely, no blood flowed. Instead, a wisp of thin, foul-smelling black mist emerged from the severed edge. The black mist twisted in the air for a moment before dissipating. Li Hui felt a sudden lightness in her wrist, as if the long-standing vexation and melancholy that had enveloped her for years had vanished into thin air. She experienced an unprecedented sense of refreshment and tranquility. Gazing at the shattered jade bracelet on the ground and her unharmed wrist, her eyes turned to me, filled with astonishment and gratitude. "Well, that's another matter resolved," I remarked, placing the ashtray back on the table and directing my gaze towards Suzhonghua. "For the second debt, I require the global trade building owned by my mother." Suzhonghua's lips twitched. That commercial building was one of the Su family's most lucrative assets, generating astronomical rental income annually. Yet, he dared not negotiate further. He glanced at his wife, who appeared significantly revitalized, and then at his lively son, ultimately nodding in resignation. "Very well. Excellent," I replied with satisfaction. Now it's her turn. My gaze finally settled on Lin Wanwan, and the attention of the entire family converged upon her. Lin Wanwan felt a prickling unease under our scrutiny, retreating step by step until her back pressed against the cold wall. "Don't come near me. What debts do I owe you?" "I owe you nothing," she exclaimed, her bravado faltering. "You owe me nothing?" I laughed, a chilling smile spreading across my face. "You have stolen 18 years of my life, my wealth, my parents, my fortune, and you dare say you owe me nothing? Lin Wanwan, you are the largest debt of all. But fear not, I will not merely claim a trifle from you as I did with them." My expression sharpened. "I demand blood for blood." Lin Wanwan screamed in terror. "Dad! Mom! Save me! She wants to kill me." She lunged towards Li Hui, seeking a lifeline. Yet this time, Li Hui instinctively recoiled. Her gaze towards Lin Wanwan was complex, filled with 18 years of nurturing affection, yet overshadowed by anger at being deceived and guilt towards her own daughter. "Wanwan, do not call her that so affectionately," I interrupted. "She is utterly unworthy of that name." I fixed my gaze on Lin Wanwan, meticulously unveiling the truth. "Did you think Guchen broke off the engagement solely because he fell for another? You are mistaken. It is because the fortune you pilfered has been exhausted, and the Pajun aspect of your destiny has begun to manifest. Pajun signifies depletion, betrayal, and severance. Thus, your beloved will betray you, your family will abandon you. Your wealth will dissipate, and everything you possess will flee from you. The engagement termination is merely the beginning. Next, you will face universal rejection, find yourself destitute." And ultimately I paused, observing the sheer terror on her face before uttering the most cruel words. "Return to the trajectory of your original fate." "Do you remember what your original fate was?" "A fate of premature demise." Lin Wanwan's pupils constricted to pinpricks. No, she did not wish to die. She had only just begun to enjoy a life of luxury. At that moment, Su Zhengguo's phone rang. He answered, and after a few sentences, his expression changed drastically. He hung up, staring at Lin Wanwan with shock and disdain. The Gu family has just officially released a statement declaring Gu Chen's engagement to the daughter of the Zhang family from Dongcheng. The statement mentions that Miss Zhang is 3 months pregnant. This revelation indicated that Gu Chen had been unfaithful for quite some time. Meanwhile, Lin Wanwan, the so-called legitimate fiancé, had been kept completely in the dark, becoming the biggest laughingstock in the city. With a gasp, Lin Wanwan could no longer bear the successive blows, spewing a mouthful of blood before collapsing to the ground. This time, she truly succumbed to a fit of fury and fainted. The room fell into a deathly silence. Li Hui stared at Lin Wanwan, now unconscious on the floor, then looked at me, her lips trembling. "Did you know all along?" I did not respond. Instead, I walked to the window, gazing at the dazzling night view outside. The dawn is approaching. Indeed, dawn was on the horizon. A new day belonging to me was about to begin, while their prolonged night had only just commenced. Chapter 9. Lin Wanwan was taken to the hospital. After an examination, the doctor concluded that her emotional turmoil had caused a surge of qi and blood. Deeming it not serious, she merely needed a few days of rest. However, the Su family members now regarded her with completely altered expressions. The affection and pity had vanished, leaving only complexity, disdain, and an inescapable fear that her Pajun fate might deplete the last vestiges of the Su family's fortune. Su Zhenghua promptly decided to send her to a property abroad after her discharge, wishing to keep her out of sight. The once pampered false heiress was thus easily cast aside. Meanwhile, I rightfully moved back into the Su residence, taking possession of the largest, sunniest master bedroom that had belonged to me for 18 years, now occupied by Lin Wanwan. The transfer of my shares and the property title was completed the very next day, with Su Zhenghua's astonishing efficiency. He was fearful that the daughter come to collect debts, might, in a fit of displeasure, predict some blood disaster for him. The Su family, from the master to the servants, treated me with utmost deference, not daring to breathe too loudly. My mother, Li Hui, went above and beyond to appease me. She dismissed all her male coaches and assistants, concocting various nourishing soups for me daily, and took me to the most upscale shopping centers, striving to replenish my wardrobe and jewelry collection that had been neglected for 18 years. My brother, Su Yan, had turned into my shadow, his gaze now filled with fervent adoration. "Sister, could you help me review my investment direction for the next quarter? Which one should I choose? Sister, what do you think of the new vice president at our company? Is he promising enough to be promoted?" Sister, I found his incessant chatter exasperating. "Keep your distance from me," I coldly retorted. He immediately fell silent, but continued to trail behind me, much like a golden retriever eagerly awaiting its owner's attention. I had little interest in them. After acquiring my shares and property, the first thing I did was liquidate all these assets. With that money, I established a charitable foundation dedicated to aiding children like myself, those abandoned by their parents or displaced for various reasons. The foundation was named Wei. My master once told me that I am the hope for the future. Thus, I would use my abilities to provide a visible future for more children. The Su family was utterly perplexed by my actions. Su Zhenghua, in particular, was so distressed that he struggled to sleep for several days. It was a sum worth hundreds of billions, and I had donated it without batting an eye. Yet he dared not confront me directly. Instead, he attempted to insinuate, Wei, do you need more money? If you do, just tell your father, and I will provide. I do not require anything. I replied softly, you owe me. And the debt remains unsettled. Those words rendered them all speechless. Indeed, it is far from over. The shares and properties are merely the interest. The true principal has yet to be claimed. On that day, I was meditating in my room when Li Hui entered, carrying a bowl of bird's nest soup. She sat beside me, hesitating to speak. If you have something to say, just say it, I urged, keeping my eyes closed. After a long moment of indecision, she finally mustered the courage to voice the question that had long been buried deep within her heart. Who was it that changed Weiwei's fate all those years ago? Who was responsible for swapping the destinies of you and Wanwan? Does your father know something? At last, I opened my eyes and looked at her. In her gaze, I discerned pain, guilt, and a flicker of fear regarding the truth. Do you wish to know? I stood and approached her. The one you should be questioning is not me, but your esteemed husband, my father, who would stop at nothing for wealth. Li Hui's complexion turned ashen in an instant. She gazed at me in disbelief. then abruptly turned to look towards the study. Coincidentally, Su Zhenghua had just finished his work and was emerging from the study. Upon witnessing the standoff between mother and daughter, a sense of foreboding gripped him. "What are you two discussing?" he asked with a forced smile. Li Hui did not respond. Instead, she stood and walked towards him, fixing her gaze unwaveringly into his eyes. "Zhenghua, tell me," her voice trembled. 18 years ago, before Weiwei was born, did you do something?" Su Zhenggua's face drained of color at an alarming rate. His eyes began to dart away, and cold sweat trickled down his brow. "What nonsense are you spouting?" "Stop pretending," I interjected with a chilling tone, shattering his last vestiges of hope. "In a desperate bid to resurrect your nearly bankrupt company, you sought the aid of a sorcerer from the South Seas. He informed you that your eldest daughter's fate was extraordinarily valuable, yet it clashed with yours, obstructing your financial prosperity. The only solution was to find a lowly substitute, a scapegoat, to swap fates using the heavenly theft technique, allowing her to shield your daughter from disaster and pave the way for your career. Thus, you found Lin Wanan, a child in an orphanage, predicted to live no longer than a year. You paid that sorcerer a substantial sum to perform the ritual. Miraculously, your company revived and soared to become today's business empire. Meanwhile, I, your biological daughter, was abandoned at the temple's doorstep, left to fend for myself, with each word I spoke." Su Zhenggua's pallor deepened. By the end, he was utterly ashen, trembling like a leaf. Li Hui, on the other hand, appeared to be in a state of disbelief, staring blankly at her husband, then at me, struggling to process the harsh reality before her. "No, this can't be true," she muttered. "Zhenghua, tell me this isn't true." Su Zhenggua's lips quivered, unable to utter a single word. His silence spoke volumes. Li Hui finally broke down. She let out a piercing scream, raised her hand, and with all her might, delivered a resounding slap to Su Zhenggua's face. Slap. The sharp sound echoed throughout the villa. "Su Zhenghua, you are no human. You are a beast. For the sake of money, you sacrificed our own daughter." She rained down blows upon him, weeping uncontrollably. The facade of happiness that the Su family had maintained for 18 years was shattered in that instant. Bloodied and in disarray, I observed the unfolding drama with a cold detachment, my heart unperturbed. I approached the crumbling Su Zhenghua and whispered a statement meant solely for his ears. "This is merely the beginning. The sorcerer who swapped your fates is still alive. He owes me more than just one life. He owes my master 10 years of vitality. Soon, I shall seek him out to reclaim what is rightfully mine." With interest, Chapter 10, the Su family was thrown into complete disarray. Li Hui and Su Zhenghua erupted into the most intense argument of their marriage, subsequently entering an indefinite Cold War. Li Hui moved to the guest room, weeping incessantly, lost in a daze. Su Zhenghua locked himself in the study, chain-smoking, and within days, his hair turned completely white at the temples. The entire Su household was shrouded in a suffocating atmosphere of despair. Meanwhile, I continued with my life as usual, eating and drinking as if nothing had transpired. I even found the leisure to cultivate a small vegetable garden in the backyard. Su Yan now obeyed my every command without question. I instructed him to fire several treacherous executives, and without hesitation, he complied. The shares of Su Corporation, due to this series of internal reforms, not only did not decline but rather increased steadily. This only complicated Su Zhenggua's perception of me. He was both fearful and unable to resist, depending on me. One day, Li Hui unexpectedly sought me out. She had lost considerable weight, her eyes sunken and weary. She handed me a document. "Weiwei, this is for you from your mother." Upon opening it, I discovered it was a deed of gift for all her private assets, including properties, jewelry, stocks, and a substantial sum of cash. "I do not require this." I pushed the document back towards her. "No, you do need it." She grasped my hand, her eyes brimming with tears. "This is what your mother owes you, a means of atonement. For 18 years, I have been absorbed in my own pleasures, neglecting you. I have not been a good mother," she sobbed. I regarded her, feeling a slight stirring in my heart. Blood ties are indeed a wondrous thing. Even after 18 years, amidst so much turmoil, I could still sense a flicker of a mother's innate love within her. "Your entanglement with unworthy suitors has yet to be severed," I spoke suddenly. She paused, taken aback. "I have already blocked that coach Wang and have had no further contact with him." "Not him," I shook my head, "but another person. A man who gifted you something many years ago." Something that made you unable to forget him and introduced the first crack into your marriage with your husband. Li Hui's expression shifted dramatically. She recalled a man who had fervently pursued her shortly after her marriage to Su Zhenghua. That man had left for distant lands, gifting her a small, intricately carved wooden statue of Guanyin before his departure. She had kept it safely in the vault of her bedroom, unknown even to Su Zhenghua. Could it be that is not Guanyin? It is the peach blossom curse. I dispelled her illusions directly. It was carved from peachwood and steeped in the blood of an unrequited lover. Infused with a love curse, you keep it close by, and you will constantly think of him, growing increasingly dissatisfied with your husband beside you. Meanwhile, that man can absorb your fortune through the statue, ensuring his success in love and his rise in status. This is the very root of your marital discord and unhappiness. Li Huira stood frozen, as if struck by lightning. She had always believed that it represented a pure and beautiful memory in her heart. Little did she know, it had been a malicious scheme all along. In a fit of madness, she dashed into the bedroom, opened the safe, and retrieved the wooden statue she had cherished for nearly 2 decades. With all her might, she hurled it to the ground and stomped on it frantically. The statue shattered into splinters. A faint pink mist rose from the debris, dissipating into the air. Li Hui, as if drained of her last ounce of strength, collapsed to the floor, sobbing uncontrollably. She wept for her misplaced youth, for the love she had been deceived by, for the absurdity of her past life. I observed her quietly, offering no comfort. Some debts must be repaid with tears. Just then, Su Yan rushed in, a look of panic etched across his face. He had forgotten to knock. It's terrible. Sister, it's terrible. He gasped. Lin Wanwan. She jumped from the hospital building. Chapter 11. By the time we arrived at the hospital, the scene had already been cordoned off. Lin Wanwan lay in a pool of blood. Her legs twisted at a grotesque angle, her consciousness deeply submerged. Yet, she was not dead. After jumping from the 3rd floor, she had merely broken her legs. Her life, it seemed, was particularly resilient. Li Hui, upon witnessing this harrowing sight, nearly fainted, supported by Su Yan. Su Zhenghua soon followed, his face pale as he gazed at Lin Wanwan on the ground, devoid of any sympathy, only endless irritation. This woman was like an unshakable leech, repeatedly bringing trouble and disgrace to the Su family. Lin Wanwan was swiftly taken into the emergency room. I did not follow. I stood in the corridor, watching the red light above the emergency room flicker to life, my gaze sharpening. Something was amiss. Lin Wanwan's breath was exceedingly strange. Her fortune had ostensibly been depleted, her life force nearly extinguished. Logically, she should now be suffering the backlash of fate, racked with illness and despair. Yet, despite the severity of her fall, her life force showed no signs of weakening. Instead, an ominous power seemed to be forcefully prolonging her life. It was as if a deflated balloon was being reinflated by an unseen hand, preventing it from collapsing entirely. Who was it? Who was manipulating things from the shadows? I closed my eyes, my fingertips swiftly calculating. A vague figure emerged in my mind, a gaunt old man clad in a black robe, with a sinister countenance, shrouded in dark energy. It was him, the sorcerer from the South Seas who had cast the heavenly exchange spell on Su Zhenghua 18 years ago. He was still alive. And he was nearby. I opened my eyes abruptly, a glint of cold light flashing within. Why was he extending Lin Wanwan's life? Because she was a crucial element in his dark magic. Should she perish, the entire heavenly exchange array would collapse, and as its caster, he would face the gravest backlash. Therefore, he must preserve Lin Wanwan's life. Just then, a chilling wind swept through the hospital corridor without warning. The lights at the end of the hall flickered and went out. The entire space plunged into darkness. A nauseating stench of decay permeated the air. Su Zhenghua and Su Yan felt the disturbance, huddling together in fear. What is going on? Why did the power suddenly go out? Only Li Hui, still reeling from her earlier emotional collapse, sat weakly on a bench, oblivious to the impending danger. A shadow, black as night, silently emerged behind her. It was emaciated and skeletal, like a walking corpse. It extended a hand, claw-like, toward Li Hui's throat, gripping with fierce intent. "Be careful," I shouted, swiftly positioning myself in front of Li Hui. Simultaneously, I retrieved a golden light talisman from my bag, which I had long prepared, and hurled it at the shadow. "Begone!" The golden light erupted, resembling a small sun, instantly illuminating the corridor. The shadow emitted a piercing shriek, staggering backward as the golden light struck it. A large hole was burned into its black robe, revealing the withered, yellowed skin beneath. It lifted its head, displaying a face covered in wrinkles and corpse-like spots. Its murky eyes radiating malice. It was indeed the South Sea sorcerer. "You wretched girl, it's you again," he hissed, his voice raspy, glaring at me with venomous intent. "You've thwarted my plans time and again. Today, I will claim your soul." He pulled out a small black cloth bag from his robes, opening it to unleash a swarm of black, beetle-like creatures that buzzed ominously, surging toward me in a dark tide. They were corpse beetles, poisonous insects raised on corpse oil, capable of reducing a person to a pile of bones in an instant. Su Zhenghua and Su Yan were paralyzed with fear, scrambling to hide in a corner. Yet, I stood my ground, unflinching. As I watched the swarm of poisonous creatures, a chilling smile curled at my lips. Even a grain of rice can shine. I removed a small copper coin strung on a red thread from around my neck. It was the only talisman my master had given me before I descended the mountain. A Tianchi coin that had been passed down for over 1,000 years. I gripped the Tianchi coin in my palm, silently reciting the incantation. The heavens are boundless. The universe grants power. Exterminate the evil. I abruptly opened my palm, casting the copper coin into the air. Buzz. The coin spun rapidly in midair, emitting a clear, resonant hum. A visible golden ripple radiated from the coin, expanding outward. Those ferocious corpse beetles, upon contact with the golden wave, disintegrated into wisps of black smoke, vanishing completely. The South Sea sorcerer was taken aback, his eyes wide with shock. The Tianchi coin. He recognized the origin of the coin, fear finally flickering in his gaze. He turned to flee. "Only now do you wish to escape?" I sneered. "It's too late. You altered my fate, causing my master to expend his energy to protect me, shortening his life by 10 years. Today, we shall settle this score." I swiftly formed hand seals, pointing toward the sky. 9 heavens, transform into divine thunder. Resplendent heavenly might, I shall be your guide. Heavenly thunder, heed my command. Boom. Outside. The previously clear night sky was suddenly cloaked in dark clouds, crackling with thunder. A thick, violet lightning bolt split the heavens, seemingly responding to my call. The South Sea sorcerer stood frozen in sheer terror. He felt the unparalleled, destructive power emanating from heaven and earth. Lightning summoning technique. "Who are you exactly?" he screamed in terror. I gazed at him, enunciating each word with clarity. Qingcheng Mountain, 36th generation heir. Sue. Chapter 12. The purple heavenly lightning ultimately did not strike down. My intention was merely to instill fear. To take a life would entwine me in karmic retribution, detrimental to my cultivation. It was far more satisfying to see such a person brought to ruin and subjected to the laws of the mortal realm than to end his life with a bolt of lightning. The sorcerer from Nanyang was so frightened by my lightning technique that he knelt down and begged for mercy. Like a bamboo tube spilling beans. He confessed to all his heinous deeds over the years. It turned out his real name was Zhao Sihai, and he had once been a lowly con artist. Only after fortuitously acquiring a fragment of a sinister southern sorcery text did he begin to dabble in the dark arts, wandering about deceiving others. He engaged in soul exchanges, raised malevolent spirits, and cast curses, sparing no means in his pursuit of wealth, leaving countless victims in his wake. Su Zhenghua was merely the most fortunate of his many clients. As for Lin Wanan, she was no orphan. She was Zhao Sihai's own granddaughter. Years ago, he had predicted that Lin Wanwan was destined for an early demise, and in a bid to extend her life, he devised the malicious scheme of stealing heaven to exchange for earth. He targeted me, a newborn. Firstly, because my fate was exceptionally precious and my fortune robust enough to sustain Lin Wanwan's life. And secondly, because he foresaw that Su Zhenggua's insatiable greed made him the perfect tool for exploitation. Everything was meticulously orchestrated by him, a grand design. With the truth unveiled, Su Zhenghua was left utterly devastated. He believed himself the master of the hunt, only to discover he was merely a pawn on another's chessboard, a foolish and pitiful accomplice. I dismantled Zhao Sihai's dark sorcery, rendering him an utterly ordinary old fool. Then I alerted the authorities. Awaiting him were the severe consequences of the law and the reckoning from countless victims. As for Lin Wanwan, at the moment Zhao Sihai was taken away, The malevolent spell that had forcibly prolonged her life ceased to function. Her life force ebbed away, akin to the retreating tide. Despite the doctor's every effort, they could not stave off the decline of her organs. 3 days later, in pain and reluctance, she drew her last breath, returning to her destined fate of early demise. The Sue family held a simple funeral for her. Not a single tear was shed in her memory. She faded away like a ridiculous dream. Once awakened, nothing remained. With everything settled, the Sue family regained its superficial tranquility. Yet all were aware that some things had irrevocably changed. Su Jinghua turned gray overnight. He dismissed all his company advisors and gradually transferred the reins of the conglomerate to Su Yan. He spent his days at home, tending to plants and chanting, as if seeking atonement for the sins of his past life. The relationship between Li Hui and me grew increasingly nuanced. She no longer sought to curry favor with me, but instead, like an ordinary mother, expressed concern for my well-being and respected my decisions. Between us, there was no excessive intimacy, yet we shared an unspoken understanding. Su Yan, however, became my most ardent admirer. He revered my words as divine decree, and under my guidance, propelled the Su Corporation to unprecedented heights, creating one commercial miracle after another. His gaze towards me was filled with awe and reliance. I had become the true, unchallenged master of this household. Yet I knew this was not my true home. After 6 months, once I had concluded all matters related to the Foundation, I announced my departure. I was returning to the mountains. I must find a way to replenish my master's 10 years of life. The worldly affairs below were indeed fascinating, but ultimately I did not belong here. On the day of my departure, the entire Su family came to see me off. Su Jinghua handed me a black card containing his life savings. Wei Wei, I am sorry. Take this money and do as you wish. Li Hui, with tears in her eyes, embraced me. Come home often. Su Yan said nothing, simply gazing deeply into my eyes before bowing solemnly. I accepted the card and returned Li Hui's embrace. I told them, let the past remain in the past. From now on, may we each find our peace. There was neither forgiveness nor hatred, only the act of letting go. I turned away and embarked on the road back to the mountains. The sun shone brightly and a gentle breeze caressed the air. Clutching my worn cloth bag and donning my familiar robe, I walked with an unparalleled lightness. 18 years ago, I was forced down the mountain to shield others from calamity. 18 years later, I reclaimed justice and took charge of my destiny through my own efforts. From this day forth, my life would no longer be swayed by anyone. I, Su Wei, shall dictate my own future. The end of the text. Thank you for listening. We shall meet again in the next story.